Help me find myself. You won't think I'm strange. Help me love you now. I got so much to change.
Kanoa sighed with relief. Finally, he was holding the small blue gift bag with a ribbon in his hands. It had taken him 2 hours to choose the gift. Kanoa doesn't enjoy picking out presents. It's such a headache. It's easier to choose gifts for children than for close friends. Toys, cakes, candies, games and entertainment, picnics, cars and dolls, those are simple. But in this case, he had to carefully select a gift, which required a lot of thought to find something original and stylish, like the platinum bracelet and cufflinks. These white gold pieces, set with diamonds, perfectly matched both business attire and casual wear. The jewelry was an ideal choice for a man who was serious about his work, a good friend, and a lawyer like Riki. Sweet, kind, calm, and reserved, Riki was in a relationship with former FBI agent Diego. That's why it took so long to choose the gift. Diego was prone to jealousy, so the gift had to be neutral to avoid angering the dangerous agent. Kanoa headed for the exit of the best shopping center in Honolulu, the Royal Hawaiian Center, where you could find anything. He visited several high-end stores to find the jewelry for Riki's birthday. Kanoa glanced at his watch and realized he was running late for the airport. He hurriedly shoved his phone, wallet, and cards into his pockets when suddenly he collided with someone. The body he bumped into was too light and slender compared to his own tall, athletic frame. Automatically, Kanoa tried to catch the person and soften the impact. His hand slid down their back and rested on their waist. Kanoa looked up and got lost in the crystal blue eyes of a young man, clear as spring water. The guy was sitting on the floor, looking up at Kanoa, his emotions shifting from surprise to relief. Kanoa straightened up, helping the guy to his feet and preparing to apologize, when a soft plea escaped the delicate pink lips. "Kanoa, help me, please." "Excuse me, but you need to step back," said a middle-aged man who looked like a bodyguard, placing a hand on Kanoa's shoulder. "I'm sorry, guys. I was just careless. Your client is fine." Kanoa smiled and released his unexpected catch. "We need to move along. You'd better go your own way," the second bodyguard advised Kanoa. "Are you all right?" Kanoa asked the young man. "Yes," the guy replied, walking away as if he hadn't just said those strange words. Kanoa stood still, watching the strange young man's back as he walked away, allowing the bustling crowd to flow around his tall, strong figure. Kanoa tried to remember if he had seen that face before, but nothing came to mind. He turned and quickly headed toward his car. He was almost late for the airport.
Help me see the light. Grateful for your touch. Help me make it right. I'm longing for so much.
Upon exiting onto the bustling street, Kanoa looked around. Not far away stood a vehicle, and in the driver's seat sat a man who was the spitting image of the 2 bodyguards escorting the strange young man. This unsettled Kanoa. They didn't resemble typical bodyguards. Rather, they seemed more like a pair of guard dogs protecting their master's prey. Kanoa memorized the car's license plate, intending to look up its owner later. If the peculiar young man hadn't mistaken him for someone else and genuinely knew him, then this matter warranted further investigation. Kanoa got into his car and sped towards the airport. No matter how enticing this newfound mystery was, his duties had to come first. Following his well-trodden route, Kanoa mentally revisited the encounter at the shopping center. Analyzing all the facts, he arrived at conclusions he didn't particularly like. He could, of course, be mistaken, but his life experience suggested that the possibility of error was slim. Kanoa wasn't just some beach boy who spent his life riding waves and embracing beautiful women. In his youth, he aspired to be a hero. As a result, Kanoa spent several years hopping between hotspots as part of a special forces team. reconnaissance and intelligence gathering, capturing and eliminating targets, demolitions, and much more. After one operation left him with several bullets in vital areas, his mother couldn't take it anymore and asked him to change jobs. Taking his mother's wishes to heart, Kanoa resigned. He simply wanted to love his family and be there for them, ready to shield them and offer support. Having fulfilled his duty as a man and a soldier, Kanoa peacefully stepped down. An old friend invited him to join his company as the head of security, and Kanoa agreed. Based on his personal experience, Kanoa could say with certainty that this pair of bodyguards wasn't just shielding the attractive blonde from the crowd. It seemed more like they were ensuring the young man couldn't interact with others. He resembled a hostage more than a protected client. But why were they parading him in crowded places? It was peculiar. Sometimes kidnappers attempt to earn their victims' trust to get them to lower their guard. The men were seasoned, with military training evident in their precise movements and behavior, rapid situational assessment, and instincts honed to perfection. They looked dangerous. Their professional eyes regarded him like two loaded revolvers. Following his instincts, Kanoa played the role of an ordinary person, hiding his true nature as an experienced predator behind a smile. After replaying all the details in his mind, he realized he had made the right move. It was better to retreat than to rush into action. Kanoa had no idea who the young blonde was. Perhaps the whole situation was a staged performance from start to finish. His old friend Red Deering, for whom Kanoa worked, was a well-known figure, a millionaire. And as a trusted confidant, Kanoa was privy to many secrets. Deering's enemies were always eager to obtain compromising information on him, but why in such a manner? Kanoa didn't know. Kanoa made it to the airport in time. As he approached the exit, two tall men were walking out. One was a striking blonde, Riki, the other a charismatic brunette, Diego. Both were tall, fit, and athletic. Riki and Diego had an inexplicable and remarkable way of complementing each other perfectly. Kanoa couldn't quite understand how their relationship, which had begun under extreme circumstances, grew stronger with each passing year. It was as if they completed each other. Riki was successfully growing his own business. Diego protected and guarded Riki because, as a successful lawyer, Riki also served as a special consultant for the FBI. Sometimes, Diego felt a pang of jealousy towards Kanoa, even though he knew it was unfounded. It was an instinctual possessiveness that arose when a worthy competitor was nearby. Riki would just laugh it off. "Hey guys, sorry I'm late," Kanoa shouted. "Hey, handsome. Where are our flowers?" Riki beamed. "Do you even sleep in those glasses, or are they part of the FBI agent uniform?" Kanoa teased when he saw Diego still wearing his sunglasses. Diego rarely took them off. The Hawaiian sun was as bright as everything else on these incredibly beautiful islands. "Aren't you tired of that?" Diego smirked, flashing a bright white smile as he opened the SUV's trunk to toss in their luggage. "How could I ever get tired of teasing a jerk like you?" Kanoa shot back with a grin. "Like children." "Let's go already. I want to sleep," Riki sighed. Kanoa started the car and smoothly pulled away. He had already prepared everything at the villa for the arrival of his dear guests. First, some rest, and later in the evening, a party in Riki's honor. The guest of honor himself had settled comfortably in the back seat, resting his head on Diego's shoulder, and soon fell asleep. "He's completely worn out," Kanoa observed quietly as Riki's breathing slowed. Diego gently stroked Riki's golden hair and replied softly, "He just wrapped up an intense court case 2 days ago. It was tough, and Riki gave it his all. We took a 2-week vacation to recover." "Perfect," Kanoa smiled and continued driving, careful not to disturb Riki's sleep.
Sunshine on my face, warm breeze in the air. Endless days ahead, no worries, no care. Feel the sand beneath, waves crash at my feet. Laughter in the wind, hearts syncopate a beat.
The birthday party was lively, bright, and noisy, just like any celebration in Hawaii. The gathering of old friends was joined by some of Kanoa's relatives, who adored the charming Riki, making it a great time for everyone. Kanoa's cousins performed a traditional hula dance, with vibrant flowers, colorful costumes, and strong emotions. Kanoa's family had long accepted his orientation, so Riki and Diego always felt comfortable in their company. Riki received several congratulatory calls throughout the evening. He answered them, laughed, and seemed to be in a great mood. But as the night went on, he became more thoughtful. As Kanoa walked among the guests who were joking and catching up, he noticed something was bothering Riki. Riki kept pulling out his phone, dialing a number and waiting for a response, but no one was answering. "You should be having fun and drinking, but your face looks like a rainy morning. What's going on?" Kanoa asked, handing Riki a tall cocktail glass. "Maybe I'm just getting old, forgetting what it was like to be young during college, summer, pretty girls, and parties. You know, my brother's son has always been the first to call and wish me a happy birthday every year. But today I haven't heard from him," Riki replied. "Maybe he just forgot," Kanoa suggested. "He's close to me, like a younger brother or a son," Riki said with a soft smile. "You'd make a great father. Have you and Diego thought about having a child?" Kanoa asked. "My housekeeper, Maria, has turned out to be quite progressive. She's been hinting for a year now that we should have a couple of heirs, and she's ready to help us with that," Riki laughed. "And how's that going?" Kanoa smiled. "I'm still resisting, but Diego is on board," Riki replied. "And why are you the one resisting?" "From what I gather, you're close to your brother's son," Kanoa asked. "I just support him, talk to him, and take care of him," Riki explained. "That sounds like you're ready to be a father," Kanoa grinned. "I'll introduce you two once I finally reach him," Riki chuckled, pulling his phone out of his pocket again. "I'm already looking forward to meeting him. Don't worry, your boy will call you tomorrow," Kanoa smiled reassuringly.
Eternal summer skies, endless and blue. Every day feels right under the sun with you.
Kanoa woke up early, as was his habit. The morning sun was shining warmly through the partially drawn curtains. He made his way down to the terrace via the outdoor staircase next to his room. As soon as he stepped outside, he heard Riki's frustrated voice from below, angrily scolding his older brother and demanding to know where his son, Kirian, was. "Riki, don't start a storm." "It's still early," Kanoa called out. "Kanoa, Kirian still hasn't called back. I'm really worried. I have a very, very bad feeling about this. This kid never just disappears. He doesn't even have time for parties," Riki said, panicking. "Riki, he's a young guy. Maybe he's just out with a girl." Kanoa tried to calm him down, pouring himself a glass of fresh juice. "What year is he in?" "He's just got his thesis left to write. After high school, he tested out of his first year and went straight to his second year at university. He's not a genius, but he's a pretty capable kid." "Yes," Riki replied with a proud smile, noticing Kanoa's eyebrows shoot up in surprise. "I just went through military academy, no testing out of anything." Kanoa nodded. "Yeah, you're so humble. Top of your class at West Point, decorated Green Beret, service at Fort Bragg, and let's not forget, making South American drug lords lose their cool." "That's more than enough for me to know you're an amazing guy," Riki smiled. "Good thing an FBI special agent can get my full file." Kanoa grinned back. "I was just curious to know more about you. By the way, I promised to show you pictures of Kirian yesterday. Want to take a look?" Riki asked. "Of course. Young prodigies always interest me," Kanoa smiled. Riki sat down at the table and opened his sleek silver laptop. After a few moments, he turned the screen toward Kanoa and proudly announced, "Feast your eyes. This is my Kirian." From the many photos, Kanoa was staring at the same guy whose piercing blue eyes had unsettled him so much. Kanoa shook his head, running his hands through his still damp hair. Then he looked up at Riki and said, "There's a good rule, Riki. If you really want to relax when you're on vacation, throw your phone into the ocean. Otherwise, your problems will catch up with you." "What's that supposed to mean?" Riki asked, narrowing his eyes, which now had an icy glint as he stared worriedly at Kanoa's unusually serious expression. "Because your boy seems to be in serious trouble," Kanoa reluctantly said, knowing Riki needed to hear the truth. "How do you know that? Have you met him before?" Riki asked, his voice tense. "Did Kirian ever visit you?" Kanoa asked in return. Riki silently nodded. "Your office shelf is full of pictures of us together. So Kirian knows my face," Kanoa said calmly. "Kanoa, what do you know?" Riki pressed. "I ran into your boy yesterday at the shopping mall before I went to pick you up from the airport. He's here in Honolulu, and he's being guarded by some very suspicious, dangerous men," Kanoa replied. "We need to get Diego involved," Riki concluded. Diego used his connections to access security footage from the mall's cameras. After reviewing it, Diego ran the men accompanying Kirian through FBI databases. It turned out they were former military, with reputations too shady to be considered good guys. These men had the right to carry and use firearms. Kanoa didn't sit idle either. He tracked down the car's license plate through his own contacts. It was a rental registered under the name Mr. Ted Brody. On paper, Brody seemed like an ordinary office worker, one of thousands in any large city. But here's the catch. This man worked for Senator John Crichton, who also happened to own the luxury yacht, Eleonora. So how do we connect all of this? Riki pondered, tapping his fingers on the armrest of the chair in Kanoa's office, where they had gathered to discuss the situation. What could a senator and a student possibly have in common? "I see only one connection so far," Kanoa decided to speak up. "Your boy Kirian is a student at Columbia University, which, as we all know, is in New York, on Manhattan Island. Senator Crichton is from New York. He was born, raised, and elected as a senator from that state. His family still lives there. To me, that's the only possible link, New York." "I don't like the mix we're getting. A senator, mercenaries, and a student who doesn't fit the picture," Diego muttered, biting his lip. "And I'm curious why and how the senator's yacht ended up in Honolulu without the senator. He's currently in New York, attending social events." "Kirian hasn't contacted his family in 2 months," Kanoa reflected. "Kirian is a good strategist and analyst. I noticed it when we played computer games together. He often won because he noticed details, like my habits and reactions," Riki analyzed. "Exactly. Kirian has unconventional thinking. He rarely takes the obvious path. That's his thing," Diego added. "Are you suggesting that Kirian might have somehow manipulated his captors into bringing him to Honolulu?" Kanoa asked. "It's possible. Kirian often visited me here. He liked it a lot. He was always interested in how I was doing, and he loved looking at photos. I just remembered, he often asked about you, Kanoa," Riki said confidently. "About me?" Kanoa asked, surprised. "Yeah. Kirian said you look like a movie star. Too striking for a head of security," Diego laughed. "Kirian knows how to ask questions, listen, and remember. I told him everything he was curious about. He knows a lot about you, your habits, tastes, hobbies. By the way, he also knows about your habit of picking out gifts at the very last minute. The Royal Hawaiian Center is where you always go to get those gifts." Riki admitted. "So Kirian knew I'd be at the mall, took a risk, and it paid off. Just like always, I procrastinated until the last day to get the gift, and that's where we ran into each other. The odds were slim, but Kirian is one lucky guy," Kanoa concluded. "Kanoa, tomorrow we're having lunch in the city. Maybe we'll get lucky, and Kirian will be at the restaurant. And by the way, he can read lips, I taught him," Diego said. "Let's hope luck is on our side," Kanoa replied.
Eternal summer skies, endless and blue. Every day feels...
Kanoa was a man of habit. He loved Hawaiian cuisine. His mother and cousins knew exactly how to feed a big guy like him, but twice a week he preferred to indulge in European cuisine with friends. Honolulu has plenty of excellent restaurants, but Kanoa had a special fondness for the Orchid. It was a cozy, elegant spot with an expensive style, comfortable natural wood furniture, white tablecloths, excellent service, and a skilled chef. The delicate aroma of orchids, The restaurant's signature touch filled the air. The place also boasted a luxurious view of the ocean, with guests able to enjoy the stunning scenery and feel the ocean breeze as it was situated right on the beach. Diego and Kanoa arrived at the restaurant and chose a seat by the large window. Diego ordered a seafood salad, while Kanoa went for his favorite lasagna. The waiter brought wine, and later, their dishes. When Kirian saw Kanoa, he was relieved that Kanoa hadn't changed his habits. Kirian was sitting at a table with a man he hated and feared. Before meeting this man, Kirian's life had been peaceful. He was studying, preparing for his final thesis, and enjoying time with friends. He used to swim regularly and was an excellent swimmer. Riki was like a father, friend, brother, and mentor to Kirian. Kirian deeply regretted the day he decided to take a different route home. "I have a meeting. Where do you want to go today? We'll be in Hawaii for 3 more days." The man touched Kirian's hand. Kirian flinched. In the first month, he had been kept in complete isolation on the yacht. But he quickly realized that playing the part of the good boy would give him more freedom to be among people. "I'll think about it and let you know," Kirian replied. "How about the luxurious beach? Hanauma Bay? You can go snorkeling and see exotic fish." "I can't join you, I'm too busy," the man suggested. Kirian glanced over at Kanoa's table and met his gaze. Kanoa's lips curved into a smile. "Kirian, hey, read my lips," Kanoa mouthed. "Can you go to the place I suggest?" Kanoa asked silently. Kirian easily read the question on his lips and nodded. "I'm interested in the Iolani Palace," Kirian said to the man across from him. "Can I go there after lunch?" "Of course. You've been behaving well, so I can't say no," the man replied. "Thank you, Senor Perez," Kirian said. "Anthony," the man corrected. "Sorry, Anthony," Kirian responded.
Help me find myself.
Kirian was confident that Diego and Kanoa would uncover who Anthony Perez really was. Anthony Perez was a well-known figure in the criminal underworld, a secretive and intelligent man hard to catch. He was the king of blackmail, and Kirian had the misfortune of falling into his hands. Perez was motivated by money and planned to demand a hefty ransom for Kirian. When Kirian tried to escape, he was caught and brutally beaten. Over time, Perez took a liking to the boy and decided to keep him, changing his tactics from beatings and isolation to rewards, allowing Kirian to go out under guard. Kirian accepted the new rules, but always thought 2 steps ahead, knowing things would end badly once Perez tired of the game. After leaving the restaurant, Kirian got into a car with his guards and headed to Iolani Palace. He genuinely wanted to see the palace of the last Hawaiian queen, Liliuokalani, now a museum. It's the only royal palace in the United States, filled with historical treasures and personal items of Hawaiian royalty. Kirian wandered through the luxurious rooms, admiring the ornate cornices, plush sofas and chairs, silk curtains, soft carpets, large paintings, and the display case with crowns. As he moved through the grand hall into the dining room, he saw Kanoa, who was dressed as a tourist, shorts, a colorful shirt, sandals, and a camera slung around his muscular neck. Kirian was surprised by Kanoa's transformation, but quickly composed himself and approached a painting, pretending to study it. "I've been waiting for you," Kanoa said quietly, also studying the painting. Kirian's heart raced with hope, sensing that rescue might be near. Kanoa returned to the villa 2 hours later. He had spent an hour in his car, carefully following Kirian and his guards through the city until they reached the dock where the yacht Eleanor was moored. It was a stroke of luck. Kanoa found a good vantage point and took numerous photos of Kirian, his bodyguards, and Anthony Perez.
Help me find myself.
"Hey," Diego greeted him. "I found Anthony Perez in the database. We've got a serious problem. And only 2 days to solve it. Here," Kanoa handed Diego the camera and a notebook where he had recorded everything he had observed. "I think now you can officially bring in the FBI. Kirian is a witness." He managed to give me a few names. They're all in the notebook. We couldn't talk much, but I hope we can get him out and find out why he got caught up in all this. So who exactly is Anthony Perez? Blackmail, drug trafficking, arms dealing. A very dangerous man. There are also rumors that he enjoys playing with young boys. 3 years ago, there was an attempt on his life. After that, he disappeared. We haven't been able to track him down since, Diego explained. Kirian said that Anthony Perez has been living on the yacht Eleanor for the past 3 years. It belongs to Senator Creighton. How did that happen? Kanoa asked. It means Perez has dirt on Senator Creighton, which is why the senator is risking his career and freedom. We need to get our hands on Perez's archive, Diego replied. The archive is on the yacht, in a safe, in his private cabin, Kanoa answered. That means Anthony won't let Kirian live. He knows too much. I'm heading to the agency, Diego concluded. Diego returned to the villa late at night. On the brightly lit terrace, he saw Kanoa sitting like a statue, staring at a laptop screen. The only movement was his fingers clicking the mouse. Diego stepped closer and recognized Riki's laptop. On the screen was Kirian, along with a whole archive of different photos, some with friends, some with Riki, and some of him alone. Riki had constantly taken pictures of him and kept them in a separate folder, along with many short videos. Diego chose not to interrupt and quietly made his way to Riki's room. He was exhausted. He had spent the day convincing his superiors at the FBI office to carry out an urgent operation to apprehend Anthony Perez. Then he worked with his assembled team to plan the operation. They had little time, little information, and few details. Most importantly, the witness was in serious danger. Kirian had indeed become a crucial witness. Anthony Perez knew the boy came from a wealthy family, but was willing to risk everything to keep him. Back at last, my wayward agent. How are things going? Riki asked, already lying in bed. The room was softly lit by a lamp, creating a warm atmosphere. Diego smiled and ran his hand down Riki's slender leg. We've made progress. I managed to get approval for the operation. The photos and information Kanoa provided caught the higher-ups' attention. Anthony Perez has been on the run for a long time. He would disappear like a ghost, and no one could figure out how. Turns out the cunning Perez was comfortably moving around on the senator's yacht, a place no one would think to search. It was the perfect cover. And Kirian gave Kanoa the name of another guy. 20 years old, brown hair, used to work at a modeling agency in New York, attractive and in demand. We've already found out that he's been missing for about 2 months. The second name is that of Senator Creighton's younger son. The senator's son and Kirian were classmates. The model and the senator's wealthy son were dating. We'll learn more once we get Kirian out. We now have a chance to get our hands on Anthony Perez's archive, Diego explained. What are the plans for tomorrow? Can I help? Riki asked. Kanoa is expected at the agency for a briefing. Kirian trusts him, so Kanoa will be the one to go on the yacht and extract the boy. It needs to be done quietly and delicately. Kanoa is good at that. Once Kirian is safe, the FBI will begin their part of the operation, Diego concluded. You know, my brother is really worried about Kirian, and that surprises me, Riki said. He's always lived an easy life, hiding behind your father's and your protection. But now he's facing the real threat of losing his son. That should change him. I think he realizes how serious this is. I'm heading to the shower, Diego said, planting a kiss on Riki's soft lips. Then he quietly added, I think Kanoa is in love with Kirian, and I believe everything will turn out fine. That would be wonderful, Riki agreed. After rinsing off under cold water, Diego entered the bedroom. Riki's bare back, the beautiful line of his spine, and his perfectly smooth skin caught Diego's eye, sparking the desire to touch. But seeing Riki's tension, Diego gently sat on the bed and began to give a relaxing massage. Sweetheart, you're like a grenade without a pin. You're about to explode. I want you to let go. Trust me, we'll do everything to get our boy out. I know how much you love him. As long as Anthony Perez is interested in Kirian, he'll keep him alive. We'll make it in time. Do you believe me? Diego asked. I believe you. Where did you come from, landing on my head like this? Riki chuckled softly. I barged into your car with bad intentions, Diego smiled. You tried to take my car for the job, Riki reminded him. Diego's hands moved over Riki's back, lower back, and shoulders. In the end, it's you who stole my soul. Diego's cool lips gently touched Riki's. Diego was ready to give his soul if Riki ever demanded it, but he didn't have to. It already belonged to Riki along with his heart. Diego knew that massage and tenderness were the right way to distract Riki. Riki was scared and worried as if Kyrian were his own son. When it came to Kyrian, the renowned and composed lawyer Mr. Riki Blackwood always became emotional and could easily make rash decisions. The passengers of the yacht Eleanor decided to leave the shores of Oahu late at night. Kanoa and Diego set off after the yacht in a small, high-speed boat. Hiding behind one of the small islands, Kanoa patiently watched Eleanor through the optics of a powerful binoculars. On the upper deck, Kyrian appeared as usual, accompanied by a guard. Apparently, Anthony was afraid that his beautiful catch might slip away before he could fully enjoy it. Kanoa noticed how Kyrian nervously scanned the surroundings, biting his lips as if searching for signs of rescuers. After a moment, Kyrian sighed and left the upper deck. Kanoa had lived long enough to understand his feelings toward the unfamiliar boy. He liked Kyrian from the very first meeting. Kanoa remembered listening to Kyrian in the dining room of Iolani Palace, watching those plump lips made for kissing with their soft hue and feeling an intense desire to touch them. Kanoa felt an attraction, a genuine interest, and a desire to get to know him better. Kanoa suddenly realized that he had seen a similar interest reflected in Kyrian's eyes. He decided to give them both a chance. First, he had to get the boy out of Perez's hands, and only then could he think about any romantic nonsense. Kanoa had taken the time to thoroughly study the layout of the yacht. Eleanor was a standard 40-meter Benetti Oasis model, capable of accommodating up to 20 people. He knew there was a skeleton crew on board, just 4 people who had been working on contract for Senator Critton for the past 5 years. The captain, his assistant, a cook, and a steward. Along with them were 6 security guards, Perez and Kyrian. 2 of the mercenaries were always on duty on the upper deck, while the rest of the crew handled their regular duties. Eleanor slowly began to move. Twilight had settled in, and they couldn't let the yacht get too far. After receiving Kanoa's message, FBI boats had taken up their positions. Kanoa donned a black diving suit and gear, as Diego discreetly followed Eleanor. When the yacht paused, Kanoa seized the moment and quietly attached himself to the vessel. As Eleanor moved again, Kanoa slipped aboard. He stashed away his scuba gear, fins, and mask, listening to the muffled voices. Anthony Perez and 2 of his bodyguards were in his cabin discussing business and occasionally arguing. Like a shadow, Kanoa slid down to the lower deck. Only then did he draw a pistol loaded with tranquilizers from the holster strapped to his leg. An army knife was secured to his right calf, just in case. He had no plans to kill the guards or Mr. Anthony Perez. Perez was a valuable source of information, and if Kanoa accidentally took him out, the FBI would be extremely displeased. There was an equal trade. The feds would do everything to protect Kyrian, and in return, they would get Anthony Perez alive and unharmed. The FBI office had especially insisted that Kanoa and Diego control themselves and leave Anthony Perez alive because they knew they'd be torn apart if anything happened to him. After all, Anthony had taken someone precious to them hostage. The route to Kyrian's cabin was easy. The guard was bored, which worked in Kanoa's favor. He silently tranquilized him. The large body slumped onto the soft carpet. Kanoa searched the guard, found the key to the cabin, and quickly unlocked the door. Kyrian's eyes lit up with joy so bright that it almost blinded Kanoa. He smiled and motioned toward the exit. They dragged the unconscious guard into the cabin and locked the door behind them.
Sunshine on my face, warm breeze in the air. Endless days ahead, no worries, no care. Feel the sand beneath, waves crash at my feet. Laughter in the wind, hearts syncopate a beat. Eternal summer skies, endless and blue.
Diego returned to the villa 3 hours later, exhausted but satisfied. Kyrian was already asleep under Kanoa's watchful eye, His father had held Kirian tightly, relieved to have him safe, while Riki was overjoyed that the boy was unharmed. Kirian had declined dinner. After the adrenaline rush, all he wanted was to sleep. Kanoa had taken him to his room and stayed there, simply wanting to be close. Kirian's sleep was restless, but Kanoa would gently pat his back and smile softly, calming him down. The next day, Kirian was ready for questioning. Diego took him to the FBI office, where they were eager to hear how he had ended up in Anthony's hands. It turned out Kirian's luck had once betrayed him. One evening, after celebrating the successful completion of his exams with friends at a cafe, Kirian decided to take a shortcut home through the evening streets of New York. On his way, he encountered Stephen Creighton, the senator's son. Stephen often skipped classes and loved to party, something Kirian rarely did. Driving the car was a young man, rumored to be an aspiring model and Stephen's lover. He was charming and pleasant, and Kirian knew them both well. They offered to give him a ride home, and Kirian accepted. Then Stephen received a call from his father, asking him to come quickly to a private yacht club. Stephen complained about having to go, but they were let into the yacht club without any issues. Stephen drove straight to the dock where their yacht, Eleonora, a luxurious and beautiful model, was anchored. Stephen got out of the car, taking his lover with him, likely to provoke his father. Kirian stayed in the back seat, relaxing. Thanks to the tinted windows and the darkness, he started observing the people on the dock. He calmly watched the important-looking senator, dressed in an expensive business suit, who seemed very agitated. Next to him stood a middle-aged, dark-skinned man, smoking a cigar. He wore light-colored trousers and a shirt. This was probably the man who had been staying on the yacht Eleonora. The man lazily glanced at the young couple, and suddenly the situation changed dramatically. The dark-skinned man pulled out a gun, and a shot rang out. Kirian couldn't believe his eyes. This was like something out of a movie. The only reaction to the shot was the scattering of birds. Two burly men grabbed the model and dragged him onto the yacht. Stephen started to rush towards the yacht, but a second shot made him stop and stand behind his father. Kirian's heart pounded in his chest as he hid behind the seats, hoping he wouldn't be found. The man with the gun spoke to the senator while still holding the weapon. Stephen was trembling with fear like a leaf. After a few minutes, the senator grabbed his son's shoulder to leave the meeting, but the man with the gun turned his gaze towards Stephen's car. Kirian held his breath in fear as the dangerous man slowly approached him. The moment the car door opened, Kirian found himself staring down the dark barrel of the gun. Anthony Perez pulled him out of the car, inspecting him from head to toe. Like a cat spotting a terrified mouse, he smiled with satisfaction. Instead of eliminating the witness, Perez took Kirian with him onto the yacht as a second hostage. Both captives were beaten and intimidated, but when the kidnappers realized that the parents of both young men were wealthy and influential, they understood that they could demand a substantial ransom. The model was also rescued yesterday by the FBI team. He had been held in a distant cabin, and Kirian hadn't seen him during the 2 months of their captivity. Thanks to Kirian's cunning and wisdom, he managed to save them both. The model became the second witness. Kirian shared everything he knew. Anthony Perez often spoke openly, which meant Kirian knew he wouldn't be released alive. Secrets are only kept by the dead. The FBI obtained Anthony Perez's archive, uncovering the dealings of the senator and other officials. Perez even confessed to the FBI that he had genuinely fallen in love with Kirian and hoped to win his affection through good deeds like taking him on walks. Every day in his cabin, Kirian racked his brain, devising ways to escape. No one, not even Riki, knew that Kirian had fallen in love with a stranger he had seen in photographs. One day, Kirian realized that Kanoa could be his lifeline. He knew Kanoa's habits. Convincing Anthony to visit the Hawaiian Islands was difficult, but it worked, and the yacht docked at Oahu. The plan was simple: visit places where Kanoa was known to frequent, shopping malls, restaurants, and the sports club. Kirian recalled everything Riki had told him, and this crazy plan turned out to be a stroke of luck. Riki and Diego returned home to New York after 2 weeks. Kirian's father stayed in Hawaii, close to his son. Kirian had to stay in Hawaii for 2 months, where he found himself under the close care of Kanoa. Kanoa knew the islands like the back of his hand and did everything he could to help Kirian forget his recent vacation and create new, vivid memories. He also gave Kirian personal lessons in hand-to-hand combat, pistol shooting, swimming, and morning runs. Kirian eagerly embraced the training, determined to learn how to defend himself after his ordeal with Anthony, so that he would never be in such a situation again. There was a mutual attraction between Kirian and Kanoa, but Kirian wasn't in a hurry to fall into the arms of the ocean god. Meanwhile, Kanoa surrounded him with care and attention. The 10-year age difference between them wasn't a barrier, and Kanoa patiently waited. Kirian defended his thesis and decided to stay in Honolulu, where he and his father opened 3 stores called Rebilka. As time passed, Kirian and Kanoa grew closer, going on dates and getting to know each other better. 4 months later, after their first passionate night together, Kirian called Riki and confessed that he was incredibly happy. At first, Riki was upset about being woken up in the middle of the night, but then he laughed and congratulated his friend. The next day, Kirian and Kanoa decided to move in together, and Kirian relocated to Kanoa's villa. Today, Kanoa took Kirian to a quiet spot where they could surf the waves, swim, or retreat into the shade of the trees to enjoy each other's company under the fragrant orchids. They spread out a checkered blanket in the shade after bringing a basket of food from the boat, dedicating time to one another. "The view is just breathtaking. An endless ocean and a blue sky," Kirian said, awestruck. Kanoa, unable to take his eyes off Kirian's sparkling gaze, decided to express his feelings. "Kirian, you fill me up with your inner fire, your emotions, and your passionate love. I love you." "And I love you, my personal ocean god," Kirian confessed, seeing the happiness in Kanoa's eyes that took his breath away. Kirian felt as if the highest wave had effortlessly lifted him into the sky, giving him a sense of freedom and happiness. It was the feeling of having the closest, most important, and perfect person by his side. He considered it a stroke of luck that he had met Kanoa. Closing his eyes and realizing that the towering wave was sweeping him away, he shouted out loud. His voice, filled with joy, soared into the sky, so vast and magnificent. The high waves gently crashed against the shore, as if protecting this small paradise for the two of them. For the two who had seized their chance at happiness.
You fill me up with fire, your touch takes me higher. Feelings burn so bright in your arms each night. Your love oh so hot, emotions I've got burning deep inside. In your heart I reside. I love you, I do, and everything you do. You light up my soul, together we are whole. You fill me with your light, everything feels right. Your love so intense, makes perfect sense. With every kiss I'm sold, your love is pure gold. In your embrace I find peace of heart and mind. I love you, I do, in everything you do. You light up my soul, together we are whole. Together we are whole. Your love oh so hot, emotions I've got burning deep inside. In your heart I'll reside. I love you, I do, in everything you do. You light up my soul, together we are whole. You fill me with your light, everything you do. You light up my soul, together we are whole. I love you, I do, in everything you do. You light up my soul, together we are whole. We are whole, we are whole. Together we are whole. Every with your light, everything feels right. Your love so intense, makes perfect sense. With
kiss I'm sold. Your love is pure gold. In your embrace I find peace of heart and mind.